Yes, but it's not the whole picture. In other words, we do absolutely stand with Israel when they're being attacked in such a horrendous way and civilians are being killed. But we also do take the broader view in mind, Rajdeep. Our traditional position has always been that both Israelis and Palestinians have the right to live in security and dignity behind safe borders in their own lands. And the fact that in the case of the Palestinians, they've been suffering a dehumanizing occupation for a very long time, and that for 75 years there has been no durable solution to their plight, despite many attempts by the UN, by various states to try and get a solution. That, I think, remains a matter of great concern. So we don't want to lose sight of that. In other words, we want the Palestinian people to have decent, secure lives. We want the Israeli people to have decent, secure lives. We condemn terrorism. But at the same time, we don't want to see a situation in which the Palestinians feel they have no recourse but to resort to violence. There's a peace process which has been stagnating for many years. And I think that this is something that have to be looked at as a whole, Rajdeep. The immediate situation, yes, Israel and Israeli civilians are being grotesquely treated. There's really been brutal assaults on innocent, ordinary people who are not soldiers or fighters. And I think that's terrorism by any yardstick, and we can't accept that. And I think there, India is absolutely justified in standing with Israel. But in the bigger picture, we also stand with the Palestinian people, and we want to see the Palestinian people obtain their rights to decent lives as an independent state.
The reason I asked you this is because the Congress Working Committee, of which you are a part, as part of their resolution yesterday, stated or reaffirmed their support for the Palestinian cause, for a Palestinian state and a peaceful resolution to the issue, but refused to explicitly condemn Hamas or the terrorism emanating from the Hamas. So you're saying that you see what's happened in Israel as terrorism, but your own party refrained from using the words Hamas or terrorism. And that leads some to believe that the Congress hasn't gone far enough in condemning the acts that have been perpetrated on innocent civilians.
First of all, there was an official statement by the Congress Party the previous day, which was broadly along the lines that I have just responded to, because I myself had issued a tweet at about the same time in which I made precisely this point. So I think for many of us, the position is indeed a balanced one. We're not suggesting that there can be any sort of two-sidedness to terror. There is no excuse for terror. But at the same time, we cannot possibly be thrilled about the long period of injustice to the Palestinian people as well. And that's why I think finding a decent...
But do you explicitly condemn Hamas? Do you explicitly condemn Hamas, Dr. Tharoor? Do you explicitly condemn Hamas and see it as a terrorist organization?
Well, the terrorist organization label is one we're very careful not to follow other countries' leads in these matters. The US considers Hamas a terrorist organization, so does Israel. India has not made any such classification, and I'm going to stick to the Indian position that these are terrorist acts. But to call everybody in Hamas, there are political elements of Hamas who one day we may have to negotiate with, or the Israelis may have to negotiate with. So let me just say these are terrorist acts. There's never any excuse for terrorism. India must condemn it unreservedly, and I agree with the government that they condemned it and they stood with the victims of terror. But we want to lose sight at the same time of the fact that the Palestinians also have rights, and those rights have been systematically violated over a long period of time. Let me say also, when you ask about the Congress position, that there will be more detailed positions. The resolution focused overwhelmingly on domestic affairs, and language that got into the resolution essentially as an afterthought is to remind people of our long-standing commitment to the Palestinian people. But the larger, broader, more nuanced picture will surely emerge in future statements. This problem, sadly, is not going to end in a day or two, and nor should we take any one statement as the total picture or the last word on the subject. We are all aware that there is terrible wrong that's been civilians by Hamas, and that cannot be condoned. And we are seeing images of terrible destruction and killing on the other side. There are civilians dying in Gaza as well. There are journalists who've been killed in Gaza. There's terrible stuff happening on both sides of the border. And now, just as I was waiting to talk to you, I hear the your reporter saying that Hezbollah may have been trying to cross the border from Lebanon, which means we're talking about potentially a much wider and more serious war. This is at a time when, in fact, the region seemed to be heading towards peace, where the Arab countries had made their peace with Israel, the so-called Abraham Accords, which brought the UAE in. India itself was part of the so-called I2U2, which was India and the UAE joining with the Americans and the Israelis in collective dialogue. On top of that, there were very strong reports of the Saudis making peace with the Israelis. That, of course, is now on hold. And some say that perhaps Hamas was really targeting that. But the point is that it's sad and tragic when people who are beginning to get used to the idea of living in peace are suddenly confronted once again by war. War never solves anything. I was with Kofi Annan when we met the Israeli foreign minister nearly 20 years ago, and he informed us of the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza at that time, after a long occupation of Gaza. Now, the Israelis are marching back into Gaza, and undoubtedly they have superior strength, and they will probably be once again in occupation of Gaza. And I have no doubt that the situation will not be any different. They will again, at some point, feel they have to cut their losses and leave, because this cycle will keep repeating itself until you have a durable solution. And that is, frankly, what is really needed, what India has been calling for.
What is that? No, but as you said, when you were in the United Nations, there have been efforts made on this for decades. What, according to you, is a solution? And given the scale of the attacks, the audacity of it, the possibility that other countries, especially Iran, Lebanon, the Hezbollah in particular, could be involved, suggests that we could be heading towards a wider war, which makes peace even more difficult. What is that solution that you see happening? I mean, is this the intractable problem of the 21st century?
Well, it seemed that way for 75 years, but in fact, the outlines of a solution have been clear for more than 3 decades. And the solutions are very simple. 2 states living side by side in peace and security with clearly defined borders, and at the same time with some international guarantees that one will not attack the other. And for this, you need to have responsible and moderate leadership on both sides. The Palestinian Authority did have that leadership, and they did not find an adequate response on the Israeli side. The Israelis under Netanyahu have continued a settlement building, for example, in the occupied territories in the West Bank in particular, which undoubtedly prolonged an occupation that could have been ended with a recognition of a Palestinian state, which still hasn't happened. The formula of 2 states with secure borders for both peoples is the only formula that can solve the problem. But increasingly, actions on the ground are making the 2-state solution more and more unviable. It was getting more unviable as Israeli settlements were spreading across the occupied territories, so there would have been no real room for a Palestinian state. Now it's getting unviable with the attacks from Gaza into Israel, and now Israel's counterattack. Now, if you say Hezbollah has crossed the border, which I had not yet seen until I heard it on your show, then Hezbollah will drag in undoubtedly some elements of southern Lebanon, and also possibly, since both Hamas are backed by Iran, Iran might also become a target. The whole thing becomes incredibly worrying. The Americans have, I gather, sent a ship already to Israel, a destroyer, and there's going to be more such international involvement as well. We don't want another wide war. India has always stood for peace in that region.
But in conclusion, Dr. Tharoor, you're saying India has always stood for peace. India also, particularly in recent times, has seen Israel as an all-weather ally, someone with whom we have closer defense cooperation, we have closer partnerships, strategic partnerships emerging. To that extent, would you say that this policy of neutrality that we had towards supporting the Palestinian cause and yet having relations with Israel, that's gone? There's a very special relationship that exists today between India and Israel, and at some level between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yeah, but you can't personalize these matters. Yes, I think it's important that our Prime Minister maintains good links with other Prime Ministers. I think that's a human thing, and that's always welcome and valuable. But ultimately, national interests trump personal chemistry. And the national interest of India is in seeing that all sides get a fair deal out of this. Yes, Israel has been an invaluable partner, particularly on strategic security matters. They've also been good people-to-people relations. We have, in fact, Indian civilians right now in Israel, one of whom was injured in the rocket attacks from Gaza, and others who are in danger. And we would like very much that Israel look after the security of our citizens in their country as well. So we have a valued relationship with Israel, but at the same time, we have historically stood for justice for the Palestinian people as well. And I don't think it would be right for us to back away from that. So let us make sure that we, in condemning terrorism, don't lose sight of the bigger picture affecting the Palestinians. That is a serious matter, and it's something which goes right back to the days of Mahatma Gandhi before independence, when he took a stand on the idea of a proposed Jewish state. And I must say that for us, that decent, where both sides are right, both sides deserve the best kind of approach, is the right thing for India. There is no reason for India to be unilaterally condemning either the Palestinians or the Israelis. We can condemn terrorist actions, but then we should equally be concerned about the denial of long-term rights of the Palestinians, and equally be concerned about the death, devastation, and destruction being visited right now upon the Palestinians as part of the Israeli retaliation. No one is accusing the Israelis of having started this. It's started by Hamas, but their retaliation, including the siege of Gaza, where they've cut off water, electricity, fuel, essential supplies into a strip of land that otherwise can't be provisioned, is actually a pretty dangerous step in humanitarian terms. So I don't think that it's a pure black and white situation, Rajdeep.
Okay, let's leave it there. It's a more nuanced position that you've taken, and one perhaps that needs to be supported across political lines, that while you condemn Hamas and the terror that has taken place against innocent civilians, you've also got to be conscious about the dehumanizing that's taken place over the years of the Palestinian people. Appreciate your joining us, Dr. Tharoor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajdeep.
Israel-Hamas blood feud returns. All-out war engulfs West Asia.
Again you hear another blast.
Fearless reportage and exclusive news breaks.
तो यहाँ से ये ground report दिखा रहा हूँ. किसी भी समय यहाँ कुछ भी हो सकता है.
India's biggest conflict reporters, live and exclusive.
You just heard those sounds of the blast. Is the real images. Look at the massive destruction.
West Asia war through India Today cameras.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
शिवसेना हमारी नेचुरल एलाय है, राष्ट्रवादी कांग्रेस ये हमारी पॉलिटिकल एलाय है.
इलीगल सरकार बैठी हुई है, वो सत्ता में जयते हैं. अगर सत्य बोलो तो डराते हैं, धमकाते हैं. ऐसे देश नहीं चलता है.
राष्ट्रपति शासन लगाने का आइडिया ही शरद पवार जी का था.
No question is going with me.
In 2022 June, the NCP MLAs, all 51, our desire at that time was to join a BJP-led government in Maharashtra.
All the allegations made against the NCP were politically motivated.
You are watching India Today, Powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
The world of skincare is rapidly changing with new power ingredients making way. For instance, retinol can soon be passé probably thanks to bakuchiol, which does the same job as retinol with minimal side effects. Even Deepika Padukone stabs it. Retinol is not well tolerated by many, causing intense sensitivity to some. Bakuchiol, on the other hand, can be called retinol's gentler cousin, which is natural, less irritating, and a vegan alternative. Deep exfoliating scrubs are now replaced with peeling pads with glycolic and salicylic acid, which is Dermat approved. I tried them and found them even better than the in-clinic peels. FCL, for instance, is specially formulated for the Indian skin.
You know, acid pads don't suit every skin. You have to take advice, professional advice, before you start using them, because some skins just react to them. And if it suits you, I think once in 2 weeks is good enough, not more frequently than that.
Natural is overrated. Everything natural is not good for your skin. Even poison ivy is natural. Does that mean you start applying or having it? No, right? If you are trying to look at natural options, look for products that are of medical grade that contain only pure, high quality ingredients that are natural but far more concentrated to help.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 36 and minimum 28 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 32 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 35 and minimum 25 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 27 and minimum 23 degrees. Chennai, maximum 32 and minimum 27 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 32 and minimum 23 degrees.